You have 5 different tabs open, 3 unfinished hobbies, and a quiet panic that you're falling behind without a true passion yet. We are taught that the people who build massive, impactful things wake up at 18 with a perfect blueprint for their lives. But look at the guy who built the computer you might be watching this on. In his early 20s, Steve Jobs was an unemployed college dropout with zero direction. He had enrolled in a highly expensive private school. Realizing he was draining his working-class parents' life savings on an education he didn't care about, he quit. He had no degree and no obvious job prospects. The architect behind modern consumer technology did not map out a grand corporate strategy. He started by wandering completely off the map. Instead of securing an internship at a tech firm, he flew to India. He spent months navigating rural villages, seeking spiritual clarity rather than business skills. Returning to the US didn't instantly cure his confusion. He bounced between weird diets, studied Zen Buddhism, and ideas with zero market value. His strangest decision was sleeping on the floor of his friends' dorm rooms. He stayed on the campus he had just dropped out of, purely so he could sit in on random classes that looked interesting. On paper, his life was a sequence of unrelated tangents. He was accumulating a library of niche interests that appeared to have no common thread. One of those random classes was calligraphy. In the 1970s, learning how to draw beautiful letters by hand had absolutely zero practical application for a career. He sat there learning about serif and sans serif typefaces, the exact amount of space required between different letter combinations, and the deep history of typography. He had no plan to ever actually use this knowledge. A decade later, Jobs was designing the first Macintosh. He attempted to bridge the gap between technical computing and the average person. The interface required a visual language that felt human. To build it, he reached back to the artistic lessons he'd learned years earlier. The Macintosh became the first computer in history with beautiful, variable width typography. If he hadn't dropped in on that single course, personal computers might never have had the typography we use today. You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You have to trust that the weird, seemingly random things you are exploring right now will eventually link together. We tend to assume that once a plan finally works, the path is perfectly clear. But at age 30, Jobs was brutally fired from Apple, the company he built. The psychological blow was massive, but losing his company stripped away the heavy burden of public success. He was suddenly free to be a beginner all over again. He entered a period of intense creative exploration. He founded a new computer company called Next and bought a small graphics division that would eventually become Pixar. A career collapse provides the space for new, vital experiences that often become the foundation for a greater comeback. We often sit in our rooms overthinking, waiting until we have a flawless strategy before we commit to anything. Jobs' reality was messy, chaotic, and entirely action-driven. When you look at the fully realized CEO, his success looks inevitable, but there was zero way to predict this outcome from his chaotic beginnings. Clarity does not come from sitting and thinking. Clarity is a strict byproduct of taking action and experimenting in the real world. Having multiple interests and feeling currently lost builds a unique inventory of experiences that most people will never have. Stop trying to predict exactly where you will be in 10 years. Give yourself permission to explore, fail, and collect experiences. Those are the raw materials of the